Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everybody. To those of you who are virtually today, welcome. Thank you for coming. And those in the room, we thank you for being here with us as well. This meeting will be called to order. The first order of business today is, of course, our roll call. And let's see, District 1. Peter here.
For just one.
Thank you, Peter. District 2.
She's not here.
I don't see Karen. Okay. District 3, that's yours truly. District 4 is still vacant. And District 5,
Renee Stribe, present.
Renee, thanks for coming. District 6,
Good afternoon, Scott Richmond, present.
hey Scott, thanks for coming. District 7.
Yeah, she's here. And she's frozen.
Dawn, you there? There she is.
Oh,
Thank you, Dawn.
she is here.
Okay. All right, and at large. At large, Representative Nigeria, I see her name.
Nigeria Rolling Forward present.
Hey, Nigeria, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Kara, you here?
No.
No.
Okay, so that's our roll call. Thank you all for coming today. As we move on into our agenda to accomplish this meeting as quickly as we possibly can today, let's go through, have approval of our minutes from the last meeting. You were sent a copy of the minutes. I hope you have a chance to review them for accuracy. And if there's no changes, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes from the last meeting. Anybody have any changes or things you need to add or delete or et cetera? If not, I'll accept the motion to adopt those minutes.
Oh, sorry.
I'll do, that should be.
Unmute yourself and somebody give me a motion, please.
Still want
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as read.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Peter. Thank you. Properly moved and second that the minutes from our last meeting be adopted. Thank you so very much. And we will certainly do the same. Let's keep moving forward. We're happy to have in the room with us today for our new business, our chief of police, Chief of Color, with his entourage today. Thank you all for being here with us. And so that the chief can get back to things that is on his agenda for today, we're going to release the floor to him now to greet us and to have remarks. Chief McCullough.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here and to appear before the Police Accountability Board once more. I first want to start by thanking you all for your continued work, dedication, and commitment, not only to the citizens of Baltimore County, but also to the Baltimore County Police Department and all of public safety. Thank you for what you continue to do to support not only the mission of this board, but support the mission of public safety and law enforcement in this county every day. I also want to, I have with me today Matt Gorman, our commander of our Internal Affairs Division. I want to thank him and his team and his people for their continued work and efforts that they're doing to address the numerous complaints that we get. They triage those complaints on a daily basis, and they treat all of those complaints equitably, making sure that they're properly handled and looked into the way that we all expect them to be looked into. I also want to thank him for everything that they're doing to modernize our internal affairs process. As many of you know, I was a proponent of making sure that we moved our internal affairs process outside of our police headquarters, and that's on schedule to move to 305 Washington Avenue. I think right now they're slated to move in March sometime. They'll be the last occupants to occupy that building. But it's an advancement in handling complaints and dealing with the public in Baltimore County in terms of that our citizens will now have a facility, a place that they can go person themselves to either make a complaint
Okay.
or to be interviewed that'll be outside of the footprint of any other police facility in Baltimore County, and they can come and go freely without feeling concerned about the eyes of someone else in law enforcement seeing them come and go, or being concerned about what's being said or done concerning a complaint. And it also gives us a place to also to send our officers to be interviewed, or to whether they're a witness or an accused. And it just goes along with best practices and the whole concept of modernizing law enforcement. So it's one of the things that we're doing. I also have with me today one of our attorneys, Mr. Ernie Wrights, who pretty much handles a multitude of things for us. But one of the things that he does is that he sits on the legislative committee for our agency and for the county. I asked Ernie to come today because he has some updates concerning some of the things that we are proponents of as an organization to make things better in the overall process and dealing with the ACC and some of the legislative changes, and trying to make some improvements in that process, not only to make things more a little bit easier for the ACC and looking at these complaints, but also just making it more a responsible process, both from a physical perspective, but also just from an overall workload. So, and of course, we've talked about that quite a bit, Henry. So with that said, Ernie, if you could fill them in on some of the things you filled me in on this morning, I appreciate it.
Sure, Chief, thank you. I have had the pleasure of meeting some of you, but not all of you. As Chief McCullough mentioned, I'm an assistant county attorney. I am the attorney who's primarily responsible for prosecution of police trial board hearings. Sometimes if there's a conflict, it gets assigned to another prosecutor, another attorney in the Office of Law, but I'm the one who does the majority of them. So you can put a face to the name. And then in my position, I'm also a member of the statewide Police Legal Advisors Group. And we meet monthly, and we discuss legislative initiatives. We met on Friday, and we're in the process of compiling our list of legislative priorities. Some of those, which I informed the chief this morning, are removing departmental accidents from the statewide disciplinary matrix. We think this would free up the ACC to really focus upon true police misconduct cases. An officer backing into a mailbox shouldn't be something that we think should be taking up the time of the ACC. Obviously, traffic accidents with serious physical injuries is something different, but that's the small minority of the police-involved traffic accidents that occur is where there's physical injury. So we would like the legislature to clean that up in the Police Accountability Act. We're also looking at the year-and-a-day rule, which requires that the officer be charged administratively within a year and a day of the allegations being the department becoming aware of those charges. This is difficult sometimes, especially where criminal charges have also been lodged against the officer because there's fairness in whether they can be compelled to make a statement, when they've got criminal charges pending. So we think that's something that the legislature needs to address. There are also a number of ambiguities that I don't know if I know some of you have read, maybe all of you, the PERF report that came out in June that pointed out some of the issues with the way that the Police Accountability Act was written. Some things aren't clear. There are some unintended consequences. So we are, as like I said, the statewide police legal advisors are working as a group to come up with legislative priorities. And in just next month, we will be meeting, having a joint meeting of the police legal advisors along with the internal affairs, the statewide internal affairs work group, so that we can you compare our list of priorities and make sure that there's a coordination among all of the police agencies statewide and not just a Baltimore County initiative. And so the major chiefs, not the major chief, but the Maryland chiefs and sheriffs will also be involved in that. So unless there are any questions, that's my report. Thank you, Chief.
Any questions for the chief or Attorney Wrights? Any questions at all? Members of the PAB, please show your face. Don't. This is our meeting. I'd like to see your faces, please. Thank you. Any questions for our attorney or our chief? No observations? I think if you all listen closely, looks like they have piqued our recommendations. I think there's a lot of the things you said that you're looking at doing. These are some of the same concerns that we had as well. So that's a good thing. Great. Mr. Gorman, any additions, thoughts? You're welcome.
I think we continue to work hand in hand with the ACC and, work through differences and things that come up that we haven't crossed before. And so no complaints or recommendations from me.
Well, as the chair of the PAB, let me say thank you to all of you as well for how readily available you are to assist us as we come together and meet and try to work through this. Sometimes it's a quagmire. You help us to get through the maze, and we appreciate it so very much. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
All right. Great. If there's no questions for our guests today, we can release them to assume their other responsibilities just before they go. Any questions, thoughts? If not, again, thank you all for coming.
I just want to say happy holidays to everyone and God willing, I'll see you next year.
That's right. Happy holidays to you as well. And let's enjoy. I give you my PO box so that you send me my gift. So
Wait a minute. The IG might not allow that.
said that in the wrong company.
I gotta check with my.
That's a good catch.
Trying to get me in trouble here.
It was a test, you passed.
Good.
That's a good catch. Y'all have a great
Have a
day.
good one. Thank you.
Thanks again for coming. I don't think Chief Black is not coming today. I guess
He is.
Black. Is he made
He's not present right now, so I think we'll just
Keep moving forward.
on to Dawn's report.
Okay. On your agenda, Chief Black is scheduled next. As he's not here, we're working him later if he arrives. Dawn, your report for the Administrative Charging Committee.
Yes, the ACC met this past Friday, December 13th. We reviewed 39 cases, all involving Baltimore County Police Department members. 7 of those cases were use of force complaints. I will have the detailed breakdown with my quarterly report, which will be presented in February. So that will include October, November, and December detailed complaints. And the next meeting of the ACC is January 3rd, 2025. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody questions for Dawn? On the report for the ACC?
Thank you.
Dawn, thank you for how well you represent us. Thank you so very much for the hard work you put in. We appreciate you. Righty. Next on our agenda, we're moving along real good. Any information or update on upcoming trial boards?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just to give an update on trial boards that have occurred since the last, that are upcoming rather. We have a trial board scheduled. It was scheduled on a unnecessary use of force, rude, discourteous conduct, and conduct on becoming a Baltimore County police officer. That was scheduled for tomorrow. It will be postponed until January due to the unavailability of a witness. There is a trial board scheduled for January 7th that is failure to take necessary action on a call of violent mental disorder. And there's a trial board scheduled for January 21st, which is cheating on a exam. That is an administrative case, not an ACC case. As a reminder, just for those who, both in the PAB and those members of the public, the trial boards exist principally when the administrative charging committee charges an officer and recommends discipline. An officer may either accept the discipline offered or can request a trial board, which is made up of an administrative law judge, a member of the Baltimore County Police Department of equal rank, and a member of the public. So 2 of those 3 are cases where the ACC charged and the officer did not accept the discipline. The third is an internal case not involving a member of the public where they were charged internally. So just also a question, since this is, Chair, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Ms. Richkis noted she can't see anything in the in our office, in our room here. If anyone else is having that issue, if you just let us know. Okay, so now Ms. Richards can see it. Okay, so I apologize for any technical issues there. I don't think, Kelly, we changed anything on our end, so we didn't. So Peter, you and I can talk afterwards if we just to work through the technical issues there. WebEx is at best not always the easiest, and particularly with when it's broadcasting out these large meetings, but you and I can work on that. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And I apologize for that inconvenience.
That's up. Thank you. Thank you so much, Henry. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for that. All righty, moving right along. I think the next item that really we want to get to today is the old business and this adoption of our annual report for 2024.
Let me pull up so everyone can see it at the same time. And I think Karen Williams also has joined us.
She just joined us. Yeah.
Karen, so we're.
Carries on?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I have updated the annual report. There are physical copies here, and email copies were circulated out to the membership. OIT is currently working on uploading it to the website. And first, I want to begin by thanking, in addition to the members of the drafting committee who played a key role in getting this report drafted, also to the members of the board who reached out with proposed edits, because my approach is that ultimately the more eyes you get on something like this, the more likely you are to catch everything and to make it the best possible report. So thank you to those, especially Nigeria, who sent very thorough edits that were much appreciated. I also want to thank, even though they're not here, the members of the BC Stat team who, led by Joy Roberts, who did an excellent job of implementing the changes that were requested and working with me to take, as Dawn can attest, data that is very hard to break down and make it clear and concise to do just that. So I won't go through everything because we reviewed this last month, but I do just want to highlight a couple of changes that were made per request that are more substantive. Obviously, and also the one thing I do want to flag is this, and this is something that can be open for discussion or can be incorporated into a motion. But with this board's approval, I would like to, with recognition that once the vote to adopt occurs, I will still add things like the link to the recording of today's PAB meeting, the agenda, the minutes, likewise Friday's ACC meeting once those are completed, and the December data from the ACC. So that way, the report will reflect full year 2024 data, not just the data from January to November with this board's approval. But I do want to flag that I don't know how well it shows up through WebEx here, but the data has been updated to include November's ACC through November's ACC data. The color scheme has been changed to green for not charged and red for charged for all of the tables, which per Nigeria's recommendation, I think makes total sense, so that it visually shows and makes it very consistent as to where the bulk of charges are coming from, as we discussed. The majority of cases fall into the other category. Use of force and departmental car accident allegations make up the next two highest. And then the highest percentage of any cases that are charged are these departmental car accidents, which, as Mr. Wrights mentioned, very often are cases that involve officers striking property with their vehicles in the course of their duties, that under the current disciplinary matrix is treated as a policy violation and misconduct, but it is debatable as whether or not the vast majority of these cases fall into or really are misconduct in the same way that the allegation of use of force or rude and discourteous conduct would be considered misconduct. So then go to the next page here, the outcomes by incident type, again, broken out into the overall outcomes, the other category, which is the biggest by far, departmental car accidents, and then broken down into use of force allegations only and outcomes of matters involving an allegation of use of force. Now, I described this more in the below paragraph, but again, I mentioned this in November, but I think it's worth reiterating that this chart on the left, that is the ACC's decision as to an allegation of a use of force policy violation. The other right side includes cases where the officer was accused of an allegation of use of force along with something else. So this chart on the left is a subset of the chart on the right. But frequently when a member of the public alleges a use of force policy violation, they will also allege other policy violations as well. So the officer may have been accused of being rude and discourteous while also being accused of violating the use of force policy. This chart on the right encompasses all opinions or all matters involving an allegation of use of force. And then this chart breaks down the additional allegations. So, for instance, again, rude and discourteous conduct, body-worn camera violation, et cetera. It breaks down that of the 9 officers or the 9 charges that involved use of force allegation, only 2 were actually for violations of the use of force policy. 3 were for rude and discourteous conduct. 2 were for body-worn camera. 1 was to failure to notify a supervisor of a use of force incident, and 1 was conduct unbecoming of a BCPD officer. These are included. So there may be an officer who's charged with multiple of these. It's broken down by charge, not by officer. And the next page looks kind of funky in Adobe here. So let me zoom out really fast if I can. Well, not let me zoom out. Well, okay. So this is a breakdown of the opinions containing at least one allegation of, and it breaks down all of the cases. So, for instance, the most common allegation is use of force. There were 7 charges for use of force, then departmental car accidents, then use of force itself, or rather rude and discourteous, departmental car accidents, use of force, body-worn camera, and so on. And we expanded out this left side so that it has the full language of the opinion. Other additional allegations, this breaks down just the other category. So it breaks down, the page above is everything. This is just the other one was pulled out. So again, you can see that in a lot of cases, there are one-off allegations or charges. Then the next page has the breakdown of the trial board information, which reflects the outcomes of cases so far. And then again, the trends in discipline, I will update to include the updated cases, but per the recommendation of the drafting committee, because of the massive the massive difference between cases or the number of cases in 2023 versus 2024 due to the adoption of the MPAA and the ACC only applying for complaints filed after July 1, 2023. There's such a difference that it would be apples and oranges to compare 2023 data from 2024 data. And then the policy recommendations, as described before, tolling the year and a day deadline criminal investigations and recommending that the General Assembly passed legislation akin to what was introduced last year, the legislation that would toll the year-to-day deadline until the criminal matter was resolved against the officer, either through litigation or through the state's attorney's office announcing they were not going to pursue charges against that officer. That way, the ACC will have a complete breakdown of the cases, the evidence available to them. The second recommendation was to ensure that complaints withdrawn by a complainant are investigated by the law enforcement agency. This is something the Attorney General's office has recommended, but it's not included within the law, and so remains open to a different interpretation by various jurisdictions or by the Maryland courts if the law were to be challenged in court. And the idea here is that if a member of the public chooses to withdraw their complaint, that the complaint still be investigated, because you don't want there to be any allegation that a member of the public withdrew their complaint under duress or under fear of retaliation, and that therefore the case is not ultimately, and I know it's a typo on that page, and I'm going to correct as well. Recommendation number 3 is removing departmental accident cases from the jurisdiction of the Administrative Charging Committee. As discussed by Mr. Wright and myself, there are numerous cases the ACC reviews, if not every month. I believe there were about a dozen that were heard last Friday by the ACC that involve relatively often very minor accidents, sometimes serious ones, oftentimes a serious injury is suffered by the officer themselves. But they're not really necessarily ripe for misconduct. Instead, they're cases that historically the department has required training for the officer, and that training is not something the ACC can recommend. So essentially, if they determine there's been a policy violation, they must discipline the officer based on the matrix, and there's debate as to whether or not that's appropriate. And that's a debate, to be clear, that other jurisdictions have also flagged as being, and some jurisdictions, to be totally honest, their ACCs are not hearing them. They are refusing to hear them as being too great in volume and not consistent with the other kinds of cases they hear. That is not our jurisdiction's interpretation of the law. While we may not think it makes sense to have them be heard, the department and the Administrative Charging Committee are treating them as if they must be heard because the statute contemplates it. And the final recommendation is to require the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission to adopt an annual schedule for training. As noted before at last meeting, the training schedule as currently stands is on a quasi as needed basis. It's when the training commission determines that there is a need for training, but that creates the potential for significant scheduling issues if we can't get people trained to serve on the ACC or the trial boards in a timely manner, given the other deadlines of the law that require monthly ACC meetings. If there's no quorum, the ACC can't meet monthly, but the ACC must meet monthly. So it could create that potential issue, and also just pushing back the ability of trial boards to regularly hear cases if there are not sufficiently trained judges or civilian members. So that wouldn't require a legal fix. That would just require the commission changing the way they handle scheduling. In terms of the next steps for this report, if this report is adopted, again, I will make add the additional data.
Dates, yeah.
Yep, update the data to reflect the December 2024 ACC meeting, include links to that meeting and this meeting. And then this report will be uploaded to the website. It will be circulated to all PAB members, as well as to the ACC members, because I think it's important they be aware of what the PAB is doing. Dawn has been a fantastic point of contact, but again, we'll make sure this gets circulated to them. It will also be shared per statute with the county executive, and I know it will be shared with the current county executive as this report will be sent out this month, but also will be available obviously for the interim county executive when he or she takes office, and will be sent to the chairman of the county council. Again, I'll make sure it goes both to the current chair, Taryn Patoka, and to whomever the council officially appoints as chair in January.
Yes.
And again, so this is something where these recommendations I've already flagged for internally for our Office of Government Affairs. They are aware of what the PAB has flagged for the require legislative fixes, so we can work to make sure that these recommendations go somewhere. And again, the year and a day recommendation, the legislation did pass the Senate and the House, but there were two different bills that had the same language. They did not pass the other corresponding House chamber. So now it became law. The hope is we can finish that, get that pushed across the finish line this year, or in 2025, excuse me.
Awesome. Any questions, additions, thoughts on the plan that we have reviewed in our last meeting and has now been updated and revised and edited, et cetera? Any thoughts, questions? If not, I think we can take a motion to,
Scott can adopt.
that's your hand?
Scott, no, I've sent him the motion, so that way he doesn't have to make a
Oh,
motion.
good, okay.
Yeah, I will have I mean, one thought I did want to make too, and I don't know if necessarily needs a response from Henry, but something I think we should look into in 2025, and I'm glad we have more data now. But in particularly the categories where we're seeing, more charged than not charged, and the two that came to mind I just saw were the body worn camera violations, and this is on page 12 of 19, Henry. And then, well, it's close, but the failure to write an incident report where there's 5 charged and 6 not charged. For purposes of making recommendations in the future, and I know obviously there's confidentiality on the ACC proceedings, but to make our future recommendations more meaningful, if we could have, if there's an ability to get more information as to, if there is a particular circumstance, for example, with body worn cameras where, is it just officers simply that are not turning it on completely? Is it they think they, should turn it off when they're in a hospital, but they should have it on, or vice versa? And same with the reports. Is there a specific scenario where reports are not being written where they should versus they're just totally not doing reports? So I think it would be helpful to have, and obviously want to stay consistent with the requirements of confidentiality, but where we're seeing statistically significant data, finding more information so we can make, meaningful recommendations as opposed to just these are the numbers, figure out if there's a problem here or not. But that was just more of a comment. I'm not expecting anyone to respond to it, but just
I can respond to it, actually. Helpful.
Okay, sorry, Dawn.
No,
Go ahead.
okay.
I want to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. So as we review cases, the ACC does flag things for potential feedback to the department and the county government without breaking confidentiality. So if there's something that we see there's a gap in a policy or a policy that could be clarified, we will flag those. We discuss it. There haven't been any so far to report to the PAB, but that is an ongoing discussion at our meetings because we know it, like the work we're doing with the specifics we have, it's important to provide feedback to the PAB so they can actually make those changes if they're needed.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to piggyback off what Dawn said, I think that A, that's a really great recommendation, Scott, and B, I think that we can, from where I'm sitting, there are absolutely ways that we can compare the data between the years and say if this number's going up, going down, why is it such a high percentage, and make recommendations based on that. I think that having the 2025 data will be useful too, because again, if we see a spike in any of these categories or likewise a downtick in any of these categories, I think that's absolutely worth discussion. And then again, on things like just using body worn camera, for example, there can be a discussion as to, again, everything from where these complaints are emerging from. Are they coming from the officers, or are they coming from members of the public? Are they emerging as part of investigations, et cetera? So I think there's a lot of ways it can be done without getting into the details of the specific case and the specific officers and members of the public who are involved. So thank you for that, Scott. I
Awesome.
make a note of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dawn. Any other comments, contributions? If not, Scott, can you give us a motion to adopt this report draft and with this update?
Yes, I will make a motion. The Baltimore County Police Accountability Board adopt the 2024 annual report draft with the additions of the 2024 ACC case meeting data and the December 2024 PAB and ACC meeting links.
Second? Thank you, Renee. It's been properly moved in second that we adopt this meeting with the updates for the rest of this year. You've heard the motion to consider. You pray for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the word aye.
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 Any nays? So adopted, so it is. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, sir. Thank you for helping to get all this together in a format that's very presentable and professional. So thank you. And again, I agree with Henry. Thank you for all of those who gave input to make this a great document. Nigeria, I don't know how long it took you to put those 15 points together, but it was great. It helped us. Now we can look at it visually.
Yeah.
And we can see that the green is positive and the red is negative. So next, all of us know that, but it's amazing when somebody says it. Yeah, you're right. That makes a lot of sense. So
It was much appreciated.
yeah, so thank you, all of you, so very much for your contributions. We really appreciate it with all our hearts. All righty, I don't think there's any other old business, is there? I don't
No,
know.
but just bring on a public comment. I just want to make a note about a question from last month and what we've done internally. There was a question last month by at least one member of the public, and it kind of segued into a second, that about the PAB's ability to review complaints.
Yes.
That I have referred to the Office of Law. They're currently reviewing and preparing additional guidance on that as well. So once Alec and company have that, that will be shared to members of the board.
Fantastic. Thank you for following up on that. Just before we invite public comment, I would like to just make a statement in this portion of the meeting to take a moment to review some guidelines to ensure that the process is as smooth and productive as possible. We deeply appreciate your input, and it's vital to the work of the Police Accountability Board, and we are grateful for your presence and your engagement at all times. Each speaker, don't forget, is allowed up to 3 minutes to share their thoughts, concerns, and suggestions. And this time is intended to hear from you directly and respectfully, and will be managed by timer to maintain fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak. We ask that each person speaks only once during the public comment period, please. Please note that this time is designated as public comments, not for question and answer periods. While we may not be able to respond immediately, please know that your comments are heard, they're valued, and will be taken into careful consideration as we carry out our duties. We kindly ask for your cooperation, please, in adhering to these guidelines to ensure that every voice in the room can be heard, that those guidelines are adhered to. Thank you so very much for your commitment to fostering accountability and for helping us work toward a shared goal of a safer and more equitable community. We appreciate you. Now the floor is open for public comment.
All right, I think Ms. Richkus.
Ms.
you wanna
Richkus.
Make her an attendee and,
Goes away.
all right,
Ms. Richkis,
maybe just click on attendees. It'll,
here. Let's see.
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know why. Okay.
Here she is.
There she
There we go.
I believe you can hear me now.
Yeah,
You
thank
can-
you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It does not appear that I can turn my camera on, but that's fine. I appreciate the efforts of the PAB and its members because I also appreciate that it's a lot of work that you have taken on. Members of the Baltimore County Police Accountability Coalition have worked hard to get you the support that you need in terms of being one of the only county boards and commissions that receives a stipend. And I also appreciate the fact that that you invited representatives of the two NAACP chapters to the meeting last month. And I gathered from the response that you appreciated hearing from representatives of the communities that are most impacted by police misconduct. There's always room for improvement, and I appreciate your openness in hearing public comment and receiving suggestions. Thank you for your time, and I wish each of the members a happy holiday season. And I'll see you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Happy holidays to you as well. Thank you so very much. Any more public comments? Do we have another person?
If you do have a comment, could you please raise your hand and I'll unmute you?
Anybody? Thank you. That looks like it is the end of our public comments.
Oh, they
for
can't
today.
raise a hand, but
Who?
they can't raise hands if they're attendees. But if you can put something in the chat, if Ms. Landers is interested, otherwise we'll.
There's other people on.
Yes, there's one.
It's fine. I think they're already. Yeah, I think we can adjourn.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's.
Ready. If there's no more public comment, we just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. Thank you so very much for attending our meeting today. And at this juncture, I think we are finished our business on our agenda and ready for adjournment until our next scheduled meeting. So,
Excuse me.
there's something else.
Yes, Ms. Landers wanted to say her mic wasn't working.
Okay.
But she'd like to thank you all for looking into the POB's ability to review complaints.
Okay, and that will be reflected in the minutes. Thank you, Ms. Landers, for that. We'll make sure that comment gets into the minutes. And again, hope to have an update on that soon.
Great. Awesome. If there's no other business,
I think you're good.
get a motion to adjourn.
Yes, this is Scott Richmond. I'll make a motion that the Baltimore County Police Accountability Board adjourn until February 10th of 2025 at 12 noon, at which time the meeting will continue in room 118 of the historic Towson Courthouse and also via WebEx. And that everyone have a happy holiday.
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ray. Happy holidays to everybody. Enjoy. Be safe out there, and we'll look to see you in the new